Hey, good morning. Well, it's a good morning here. This is absolutely beautiful here. And I wanted to talk about tantrums and how my experience with them I think is worth sharing. Because when I see other parents and how they respond to their child's tantrum, it seems like a very negative experience for everyone involved. And understandably so. I want to, have compassion for those people because it really can be hard and just bewildering. It doesn't make sense. But my experience with tantrums has gotten so much better that it's actually flipped where I can honestly say that it is a beautiful experience now. It has changed in that way. So, this is thanks in large part to a book called Listen by Patty Whiffler. And in it, in it, tantrums are described as a loss of connection between the child and the parent, and how that loss of connection will will create in that child this really distinct and urgent need to reconnect with their caregiver, to feel safe. And and the tantrum serves that function. It it calls attention to this child that is in need of connection, and it forces, in a way, the parent to look and pay attention in some way, anyway. Okay, so the way I see it often happen, and the way it has happened for me in the past, is that a tantrum can elicit a very negative response from a parent, where a parent is frustrated and even angry at the child for having a tantrum. And while understandable completely, there's something that you can't really get around with it, and that is it doesn't work. It doesn't matter what you do. If you're angry at the child for having a tantrum, that doesn't help. It doesn't produce a desirable positive outcome. Usually just resulting in uh, a lot of resentment and frustration and sadness, anger, everything. Uh, so let me describe my experience now, and I just had one happen last night, so it's fresh on my mind. Now, a tantrum can happen kind of any time and for basically any reason, and the reason is never really the reason. Um, in this case, it was about screen time. My kid had been using, not this one, but the older one, had been using my computer to watch some videos and really wanted to keep watching. And his mom and I decided to call it a night and close the computer. And and he just lost it, and I mean really lost it. And he'll have this kind of tantrum every once in a while. I want to say every few months, where it's so bad it almost seems like it's an existential threat to him. It's like to the point of this coughing and gagging and just, it's a full body response. And I was able to be with him through it, actually just hold him and be there with him without without judgment or without trying to fix him, without trying to get him to stop. I was able to just be with him, and that resulted in a complete turnaround. Eventually, it took a little while, but it resulted in this total turnaround where we ended up sitting on the couch together looking at a book. It was kind of a coffee table style book, big, beautiful pictures, and it was all about ships and the sea and stuff. And we just got to look at that book and read it together and look at the pictures in the most connected and tender and beautiful way. It was honestly a magnificent experience, the reconnection that happened as a result of the tantrum and as a result of how I responded to it. And he ended up falling asleep with me on the couch there, and just a glorious end to the episode. Now, I don't think that's how most people experience tantrums. I don't think it ends with the parent going, "Oh, I'm so glad that happened. That was so wonderful. That was so just perfect." But that's how I felt. Last night I was like, I would not wish that to be any different. It was beautiful. So let me dig in a little bit about why that is, why I felt that way, and what it feels like to go through it with a toddler while they experience their emotions. Um, and first, I actually want to give a little analogy to the connection, because that can be a little bit of just a wishy-washy term. And so the way I view it in this context is in a literal way. So a child needs to be in connection with the people around them. They need to be safe. And because a human child is so vulnerable, they're so vulnerable. For years, they're incredibly vulnerable. They rely on the adults around them for their survival. And so looking at connection as like a source of life, I thought of it as like if you were in space, wearing a spacesuit, and your child was also there with you in their own little spacesuit. I think of it as like a literal, like an oxygen tube that goes from your oxygen tank, goes over to your child's suit and plugs into them. They need it to survive. And when they realize that there's something wrong with that hose, that they're not in connection anymore, it's being disconnected or it's got a kink in it or something like that, they start to freak out. And it's our responsibility as the adult to restore the connection, to unkink the hose or plug it back in so that they can breathe again, that they are safe and they'll survive. And when I think about it like that, then I get it. It clicks. I go, oh, okay. You really are scared here. You really are having an existential threat. And then I can take them seriously and I can tune into them and reconnect. Now, in the spacewalking analogy, obviously you just plug the tube back in and they're good. Here in real life, though, in order to establish connection again, it's more like what you need to do is tune into them, pay attention, and listen. Just listen. Just be there. Just be in caring attention, caring and loving attention to them. And it doesn't work instantly. It could still be, depending on your situation, depending on the child and what their history is like, it could take a while. It could be an extended tantrum. You might be in it for half an hour or an hour or I don't know, maybe more. But what I did last night was I picked him up and I was holding him, and I had I had taken the laptop away and I put it up on top of the refrigerator. I just set it on top of the refrigerator to have it out of reach of him. And he really wanted to get back to it. And so when I was holding him, he was screaming at me to take him into the kitchen so he could grab the laptop. And I just held him. I was in the living room, and I just held him and said, I'm not going to do that. We're done watching videos tonight. And he was screaming and reaching and just, kicking and doing everything. But what was funny was if I tried to put him down, he didn't want to go down. He wanted to be in my arms. And I would try to put him down. He's like, no, 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 no. And so, okay, I'll hold you. And I just held him, and he kept on kicking and screaming and trying to get me to go into the kitchen. And what I was getting from that was he wanted the connection with me. He wanted me to keep holding him. He also wanted me to take him into the kitchen to grab the laptop. But you don't have to do what they say in that instance to just be there. I also won't do something that they don't like. Like I wouldn't hold him if he didn't want me to hold him. If he was trying to get out of my arms, then I would put him down because it wouldn't work in my favor to just overpower him and force him to do something he didn't want to do. In this case, he wanted to be in my arms and he wanted to get a lot of emotion out while he was in my arms. And so I was just holding him. I would occasionally say something like, "Hey, it's okay. I got you," um, or "It's okay that you're frustrated." And I just went through it, and it was, I want to say it was maybe about 20 minutes, somewhere around there, of him really just with a lot of passion, screaming and trying to get to the laptop, but also not wanting me to put him down, and me just holding him. And if he ever leaned into me, then I would hug him back. Otherwise I was just kind of holding him up, and he just gradually slowed down. He gradually would calm down, and occasionally he would perk back up again and be screaming again, and then he'd calm back down a little more, a little more. And the whole time I'm in just total loving attention, just giving him compassion and giving him eye contact, or just the sound of my voice, things like that. And then at a moment when he calmed down for long enough, 30 seconds or something, I just asked him, like, "Hey, do you want to sit on the couch with me and look at a book?" And he was just like, "Yeah, let's do that." And so we sat on the couch and looked at this beautiful coffee table book, and from then on, it was perfect. It was absolutely perfect. He was loving, he was cuddly, he was interested in the book totally. He was asking questions, he was interested, he was engaged, and we just cuddled up on the couch and looked at a book. And we maybe did that for another half an hour or something before I kind of see it seemed like interest in the book was starting to wane, and I closed it and was like, "Hey, you just want to lay down and cuddle?" He's like, "Yeah." And so we laid on the couch and cuddled, and he fell asleep. And that was it. That was the end of the evening. Um, so I wanted to describe that because I think the biggest issue that I see is that parents haven't experienced that. They haven't seen it. And so they don't know that that is the way that a tantrum could end. They don't realize that with their loving attention only, without trying to soothe them, without trying to threaten them, without trying to bribe them, without any of that, that you can turn a tantrum around completely, 180 degrees, total turnaround from a severe state of disconnection to total connection. That you can do that and end up, I went to bed, with the family, and was just telling my wife, like, that was absolutely amazing. I loved it. I loved it to the point where I can actually look forward to a tantrum. Not that I want a tantrum to happen, I don't want to create it, but I know that when I see a tantrum starting, I've got the tool. I've got it. And I know it's going to end well. It's going to end with more connection, more love, and I love now getting to use that tool. It's like, oh, I, as a parent, I've got this amazing skill now that I'm proud of, and I'm so happy to pull it out when it's needed. Um, and I'll be able to do it with this guy too when he's, you know, old enough to be throwing his own tantrums. Um, so just to review a little bit, um, check out the book "Listen" by Patty Whiffler. It's in the very first chapter, I think. Um, and she basically has the perspective that basically all of the problems you're going to experience with behavior in your child are going to stem from disconnection. And then you get to, you know, go on a little journey of learning about, okay, what types of things in my daily life are creating that disconnection with my kid. Um, you know, times where you're not able to give them your perfect attention, you're going to be dismissive or impatient or absent or whatever, which is all very unavoidable to a large extent in modern life. Like, it's going to happen. And so the tantrums are probably going to happen. And you don't need to think of them as an indictment on your parenting, but you can have this skill set of loving attention during a tantrum, through the entire tantrum, that will really transform. I just, it changes everything. And I want as many parents to have that skill as possible. So that's why I wanted to tell a little story. Okay. Um, Speaking of, it's time for me to go back and, well, face my toddler and the screen time issue again, which I don't have answers on that one. Like, I've got a good skill right now, something to share on tantrums, but I don't know how to deal with screen time yet. And so that's the next thing I'm working on. Okay, have a great day. Have a beautiful day. And give your screaming toddler some loving attention and see what happens. All right, see ya.